Hey guys, it's Kevin Anderson for Penny Dreadful, Season 2, Episode 2, Verbis Diablo, and that is why I watch this show. Episodes like that, if you guys are wondering, why do you watch Penny Dreadful? That's why I watch it. I mean, this was such an amazing episode. I mean, the premiere was great, but this episode sets so much more up, and I loved everything that's set up. We did have one plot that kind of went nowhere, but I still really liked it. I liked what they did with it. It was still creepy. It worked with the show. It had probably the creepiest scene the show has ever given us, and I loved every minute of this episode. So, let's get into this episode because it was amazing, and I loved it. So, as you know, in the last episode, Vanessa was basically saw the witches, you know, the whole thing with what do you call it? I'm trying to remember what it was called now. I'm trying to remember what we call it. The Nightcomers. You know, the Nightcomers ambushed her prayer ritual, and she doesn't really know what's going on. So she goes to Malcolm for comfort the morning after the witches crash her prayer session. And I like seeing the bonding between these two. That's definitely something I loved right away, is seeing these two bond. That's something I loved in Season 1. I thought it was really good here as well. Definitely something I really enjoyed watching. And basically, to help her find some measure of peace, Malcolm brings her, he basically, you know, she just wants to find peace. She's like, can I find peace? And he tells her that he's not really, you know, that's not really what his life is about, and he tells her that he can bring her somewhere. So, basically, he brings her to this soup kitchen to help feed London's sick and poor, and I thought that was a really good scene. Definitely something I loved watching, and basically, he took her to, you know, somewhere that he finds, somewhere he finds a kind of peace, and basically, this soup kitchen is infested with cholera, to the point where he and Vanessa have to wear surgical masks just because it's infected everywhere, and he basically says that in the shadow of so much wealth, such suffering. And you know that he not only volunteers there, but also contributes money, and it makes him feel like he's a better man, which I really like seeing that scene. I thought that was really well done, and really was some really good character development for Malcolm. That's definitely something I liked watching. Sorry guys, my lighting here is not good. Let me fix that. I need some light. There we go. Okay. Like I said, that was some really good character development for Malcolm. Something I definitely liked watching was him getting this character development. So, he takes her to this soup kitchen, and he leaves to go to the British Museum, asks her to come, but she decides to stay and keep serving the needly. Now, meanwhile, while this is going on, as we know, Caliban, who now wants to be called John Clare, I'm going to call him John from now on, because he wants to be called John Clare, who apparently is based off of some sort of, like, paint poet, and he might become John Clare, because they haven't referenced that, you know, he stole the name from a famous poet, so he could very well become John Clare. I mean, these are based off of books, so why not make him that character? I think that's really interesting overall, and it's really making us care more about, John's character. So, he is overjoyed now that Brona's back, and Victor, basically, they kind of clash a little, because John wants Brona to learn poetry, while Victor's like, oh, she has to eat, she has to be human, there's a lot more things she needs, but John just wants her to, you know, read poetry, and basically if things go his way. However, Victor ends up taking her into his own hands, and basically names her Lily, and basically says give her an entire makeover. That Irish accent that Brona has is gone, and she's no longer called Brona either. Her name is now Lily, and I thought that was really interesting overall. So now we kind of have this love triangle between John, Victor, and Lily, and I think that's really interesting, especially because they've now changed two of the names, and not only is that, but to make it even weirder, she explains that they are cousins and she suffered an accident, which is why she has no memory. So you can tell that he's getting really attached, and basically, it's going to get very incestuous. I heard that this was going to be a very incestuous story. I'm like, how is this incestuous? There's no way they're related. Well, now, basically, he's making her think that she's his cousin. So, it's definitely going to get very incestuous. And the question is Lily going to want this? Because I really don't know what's going to happen there, but I guess we'll have to see. Because that's really interesting overall. So, basically, after this, Vanessa, we have one of the best scenes probably the show has ever given us. Because John actually goes to the soup kitchen, and Vanessa ends up meeting with him. Now remember, Vanessa has no idea that Victor created, John, and she doesn't think anything of, his face or anything, which I really like seeing because she's the first person that didn't make a big deal about his face and wasn't scared by him, didn't think of him as a monster. She thinks of him as a regular person. That's something I really love seeing, and that's something that's great about Vanessa. She's very accepting about people, and it's something I've always loved about her character, and something that I think that they do very well with her character, showing how accepting she is of people. And she basically eyes a figure familiar. Basically, we see, basically they have this great conversation, and she asks if he wants soup, and he asks if he can sit with her, and he apologizes for the quality of soup. She introduces herself, and he introduced himself as John Clare, and basically she asks him if he has religion, and he asks if she's offering it, and she asks if he requires it, and you see this kind of rare smile, and definitely he says he never has. And she says she won't offer and would be a poor advocate, the Almighty, and she has a challenging past, and she says, basically, she's not so sure they're speaking these days. So I thought that was really interesting that we saw that. I mean, definitely, they're getting very close here, and he said he read the Bible when he was younger, and then he discovered Wordsworth, and then the old parables and platitudes seemed anemic, even unnecessary. William Woodrow versus the Bible, and I thought that was really interesting. So he explains further that the glory of light surmounts the fear of death, and good Christians fear hellfire, so to avoid it, they are kind to their fellow men. And that kind of shows why Vanessa's being so kind to, John, because she feels for John. She doesn't think of John as this, crazy person, and she just sees him as a regular person, which I like seeing. And he says, good pagans do not have this fear, so they can be who they are, good or ill, as their nature dictates, that they have no fear or God, so they're accountable to no one but each other. And Vanessa says that that's a profound responsibility, and she asks if he truly believes in heaven. And he says he believes in the world and those creatures that fill it, and that's always been enough for him, and he's now beaming both at his strange love of the world and the fact that he's having this conversation with someone who's nearly repulsed by nor scared of him, and he's really surprised that she's not scared of him, which I just love seeing because it really makes me think that they're going to try to get these two together. Definitely, I think it's going to happen to me. Now that the whole thing with Ethan didn't work out, and now that, her and Dorien didn't work out, definitely, I feel like the way we're going is that John and Vanessa, they're getting together. I think they're definitely getting together, and we'll have to see what happens there. So, basically, we then see after this, he says, look around you, there are sacred mysteries at every turn, but no exhalation in life beyond this. And basically, they get really close. He starts talking about this poem with her, William Blake's To See a World, and she's familiar with the poem, and she says, with respect to Blake, she sees no wildflowers, there are only pain and suffering, and he tells her to look closer, and parting ways, he says, thank you for the soup, and she says, thank you for the conversation, you have beautiful eyes, and I really love that scene, because it really makes me think that they're going to try to get these two together. I think that's going to happen, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did that. Definitely, I could see that happening, but we'll have to see what does end up happening there, because I definitely feel like that's what's going to happen. I mean, I guess we'll have to see what happens, though. And it seems like now, the whole thing with Victor, now it doesn't seem like Lily's on his mind, because obviously Victor has now taken over Lily and basically took matters into his own hands. So how is John going to respond to this? Because basically, we see that Victor seems attached to Lily, and the feeling, it seems, is mutual, which becomes more obvious once they're alone. He's been telling her things about, and I thought that they were legitimately going to have sex in the scene. And he tells her that he promises her that he's going to show her what life is. And, basically, she's saying that John's not going to like this, and he might need some more soup and conversation. And that's true. He definitely is not going to like this. And I thought that was really interesting that we saw that. So, she's not aware of John's, attraction to her. She doesn't know about any of that right now. All she knows is that she's supposedly his cousin, and they're probably going to have some really weird incestuous relationship. So, that's basically what was going on there. So then we see that Malcolm, while he left Vanessa at the soup kitchen, he actually runs into Evelyn. Now, of course, Evelyn is our big villain. I have to say, Oh my god, she is awesome. The woman that's playing her, such a badass. I mean, she's just so terrifying. There was a scene in this episode, towards the end, that was legitimately terrifying. And this whole episode, I'm like, why would you trust her? Of course, Malcolm has no idea that Evelyn is the woman that's doing what's, is happening to Vanessa. He doesn't know about that. So, he's trying to pick out a gift for Vanessa, and Evelyn casts a spell or some kind of him, and they go on an outing to a gun range, and Malcolm becomes more bewitched by Evelyn the more times he spends with her. My worry here is that she's going to try to get Malcolm to ally with her, and she's basically going to get Malcolm to turn against Vanessa. I hope that does not happen, but we'll have to see what happens there. I mean, they had a lot of bonding this episode, definitely. They were getting very close this episode. Basically, he does not know that she's a supreme mistress of evil, and, that she's related, that she has this attachment to Lucifer. He doesn't know about any of that stuff. So, she's interested in him, definitely, and I think it's definitely more than just putting a spell on him. She definitely has a romantic attachment to him, and whether it's because of his connection to Vanessa, his dad, we really don't know what it's about. It could even be his wealth. She might just want to take his wealth from him. We really don't know a lot of things here, and I kind of like that we don't know a lot, because it's setting up for a lot of awesome stuff that we definitely will get to as the season goes on. I like how slow-paced this is, because last season they were really fast-paced, and yeah, they had 8 episodes, they had to rush it. But now they have 10 episodes, they can just stretch it out more, and I like that. So, we don't know what spell she put on him, but she definitely does put some kind of spell on him, and I thought that was really interesting when we saw that. I mean, definitely I thought that was really interesting. I'm very worried to see what's going to happen to Malcolm, because I don't know what's going to happen there. So then we meet Fern and Lyle, who we already have met before, and I kind of remember his character. He was the museum owner, the guy that owns that museum. He now has an expanded role this season, and we very quickly see why he has an expanded role, because I myself was wondering, why does he have an expanded role? Well, at first, he basically arrives to help the crew learn about Verbis Diablo, and is immediately taken with Ethan, and we very quickly find out that Lyle is actually gay, and he now has a crush on Ian, and basically, it's kind of a funny scene, because Lyle and Ethan go off to track down and steal the only written record of the Verbis Diablo. And basically, the Verbis Diablo, let me find out more about it, because I'm reading like 3 different recaps here, guys, sorry, give me 1 second. Okay, so basically the Verbis Diablo, they discuss this whole Verbis Diablo situation, basically to help Ethan further control what's actually going on with him. And I thought that was really interesting overall, because basically they recruit the help to find out more about the witches hunting Vanessa, and he's basically, he has very unique, he basically takes Ethan to this library where they recover this really large number of artifacts that connect to witches and Lucifer. And while searching, Ethan launches into a long monologue. Basically they found that, but they also find this, I thought this was really interesting overall. He notices this family, secret painted with wolves, a crest painted with wolves, and remembers watching a wolf pack kill when he was young, tearing their prey's wine cup out. And basically, Lyle says that after years of confinement and torment, they were finally convinced he was not, in fact, mad, but possessed by the devil, and they brought him to the stake, and Victor basically tells him that God loves religion. And I thought that was just really interesting overall, we find out here, because basically, Ethan finds out in this scene that basically, there are these wolves that before growing quickly and quietly, it strikes too close to home. So I'm wondering if Ethan is one of those kind of wolves, because he hasn't really done any major destruction. Obviously, there's still that murder case going on. I'm pretty sure that's still going on. I mean, I don't think that just ended. There's no way that ended. I think that's still going on. We'll have to see what happens there. But I definitely feel like that is still going on. I'm not really sure, but I guess we'll have to see what happens there. I guess we'll see what happens with that scene, because that was really interesting overall. So Dorien, we then see Dorien in this episode. Dorien's stuff in this episode really fucked up, but it's Dorien. What do you expect? Dorien lives forever. He does whatever he wants. And also, he's probably pansexual, because we realize that in this episode. So, basically, he's still pining over Vanessa. He's approached by this, who we think is a woman, Angelique. And, basically, him and Angelique get really close. They basically want to meet up, and he later visits her at her workplace, a brothel, and we find out that Angelique is actually a man, because he takes off his clothes, and he has a dick, and basically, he is a man. So, and Dorien has no problem with that. So, basically, he's going to try to get over Vanessa with Angelique, and I'm interested in seeing what's actually going to happen there. If, this does work out with Angelique, I'm not sure. But there is still that thing going on with Ethan, because I heard they are going to talk about the whole Dorien and Ethan thing that happened in episode 4, and then they just dropped it. They are going to discuss that again. I'm interested in seeing what's actually going to happen there. So, meanwhile, the detective on the Mariners Inn case finds his lone survivor horribly disfigured in the hospital, and half his face is ripped off, and that I thought was just crazy when we find that out. So, at Frankenstein's home, John's introduced to Lily, transformed with freshly dyed short blonde hair, while back at Sir Malcolm's place, the rest of the crew begins to piece together the puzzle of the Verbis Diablo. So, basically, they're trying to find out, more about what's going on there, and we see, basically, after this, that, Inspector Rusk so basically, Inspector Rusk visits the hospital, I talked about that and everything, and now he obviously knows the truth about Ethan. He has to know the truth about that, so we'll have to see what happens if, Inspector Rusk does find out the truth about Ethan, because I'm not really sure if he is. We'll have to see what happens there. So, then we get to the craziest scene of the episode. This just got insane, and just, oh my god, this was awesome. I loved it. I thought this was really crazy, but I loved it. So, Hecate attacks a couple on the train to steal their baby, brings it to her mother at their lair. We see that Lyle is actually being blackmailed by Evelyn, who has photographs of him sleeping with other men, and of course, Lyle is married, and she doesn't want his wife to find out that, of course, he wouldn't want his wife to find out that he is gay and everything, which I kind of like that he's married, he's not telling his wife that he's gay. I think that's really interesting overall, and that is basically what he's going to do this season, that he's being blackmailed by Evelyn. He's basically going to get Vanessa to Evelyn. That's basically what she wants to do, and that's basically what their plan is going to be, that he's going to get Vanessa to Evelyn. Evelyn's going to do what she wants with Vanessa. We don't really know what her full plan is yet, though. Because Evelyn takes this baby into a room full of horrific antique dolls, guts the baby, rips his intestines out, the baby's already dead, and she makes a mask of Vanessa's face, and that's how the episode ends. Fucking terrifying, I have to say. Fucking terrifying, but oh my god, the woman that plays Evelyn is just so creepy, and I love it. She's doing an awesome job playing this creepy woman. It was so creepy, I have to say. It was awesome, and I love the way the episode ended. I thought that was perfect. I love that, honestly, I did. So overall, guys, an amazing episode. Absolutely loved it. Major improvement over I love last week's episode, but this week's episode was so much better, and I love the direction we're heading in. There's a lot to talk about. First of all, let's talk about Vanessa and John. Do you think that Vanessa and John, do you think they're going to get together? Do you think they're going to have more for them? I definitely feel like this is not the end we've seen of their interaction. There's definitely going to be more of it, but I guess we'll have to see what happens as the show goes on. I feel like definitely as the seasons, as the episodes go on, they're going to start to more and more interaction. I don't know if it's going to be a romantic thing or more of a friend thing. I honestly want it to be more of a friend thing, but I guess we'll have to see what happens there. I really like their interaction. It seems like definitely they're trying to give John more to do this season, and I like that. We also have that whole storyline going on with John trying to, basically get people to treat him as a real person, and maybe Vanessa can help him out with that, because I definitely could see him getting Vanessa to help him out at his job, where he just wants to be treated normally, and since Vanessa sees him that way, maybe she'll be able to convince the other workers that he is, just a normal person. But we'll have to see what happens there. Lyle, basically, what is going to happen with Lyle? Obviously, he is now being blackmailed by Evelyn. What is Evelyn's real plan here? What does she really want to do to Vanessa? We don't really know, and I like that we don't know, because it's more intriguing that way. It keeps me more on the edge of my seat. It makes me more geared up for the next episode, and I'm looking forward to seeing really what her full plan is there, and there's a lot that I'm wondering what's going to happen, but the woman that plays her is just so creepy, and she's doing an amazing job, and just, she's such a menacing villain. I mean, last year we had some really menacing stuff, but this is a menacing villain, and that scene is one of the creepiest things I've ever seen, I have to say. That was just so creepy, and I loved it. And, Also, what's gonna happen with Ethan and Lyle? Does Ian have feelings for Lyle like Lyle does for Ethan? Does Ethan realize that Lyle has these feelings for him? I'm not really sure. Obviously, Lyle likes Ethan, but I don't know if Ethan knows that Lyle likes him. I guess I'll see what happens there. Dorien, what's gonna happen with Dorien and Angelique? Is he gonna continue this relationship? Does he really care that Angelique is, transgender? I don't really think he gives a shit. I think he's just gonna have sex with any person he sees because he's pansexual. So, if you guys don't know what pansexual means, it basically means that you have sex with anyone and you can fall in love with anything, like, man, woman, transsexual, anything like that. You don't really care who they are, you fall in love with them. That's really what you do. So, I think definitely Dorien is pansexual. Is Vanessa going to find out that John is related to Victor? I definitely feel like she's going to get involved in that story somehow. That's something I definitely like seeing because a lot of people did say this. The storylines last season did definitely feel disconnected. I never felt that way, but a lot of people felt that way. Also, let's talk about Lily. How is this whole Lily and Victor situation work out? Does Lily have legitimate feelings for Victor? Is Victor gonna force himself on her? Is she gonna get feelings for him? I mean, I'm really not sure what's gonna happen there, and I think it's really interesting to see what's gonna happen between Victor and Lily, because I like their dynamic overall. I think overall it's just really interesting. What's going to happen there. How does John feel with this? John, of course, doesn't really know what's happening, so how's John going to react? Definitely, I feel like he's not going to be happy about it. Is Victor stealing, Lily away from John, or is John going to move on to better things? I mean, he could definitely move on to better things. Obviously, he really just wants a bride. That's what he wants. I mean, that's what he's wanted all season, is a bride. I mean, that's what he's wanted since the show began, as a bride, so even though he doesn't have Lily, he could get someone like Vanessa. We'll have to see what happens there, though, if he does end up getting Vanessa. And finally, Malcolm and Evelyn. Is Evelyn going to somehow get Malcolm to work with her? I mean, obviously, he's under some sort of spell right now. What's going to happen? Do you think he's going to, somehow... Do you think she's going to get him to ally with her like she did with Lyle? It seems like she can just get anyone to ally with her at this point. I mean, obviously, Lyle's terrified of her, so is she going to get Malcolm to ally with her, which that could be really interesting if that does happen. I definitely think that's a possibility that definitely could happen, and I guess we'll have to see what really does end up happening there. But, oh my god, she's such a good villain, I have to say. This is why Penny Dreadful is the best horror show on TV, because we have a legitimately terrifying villain. We have some really creepy shit happening. It's awesome TV. It's why I watch this show, and it's why Penny Dreadful is one of the best shows on TV. It's that simple. That's really why I watch the show. Also, let's talk about Inspector... What's his name? I can't remember his name now. Inspector, Rusk. Does he know what's happening with Ethan? Does he know that Ethan is this werewolf? And can Ethan also control his werewolf? Can he control all that? Because it seems like he wants to. So do you think that Ethan can control when he's when he's a werewolf and when he's a normal person? I mean, he hasn't turned into a werewolf for a while, but remember, werewolves only come out at full moon. So when there's a full moon, is he going to be able to control that? Or is this going to be like a Teen Wolf situation where it's full moon and you basically go rogue and you basically just turn to a werewolf and there's nothing you can do about that? I could definitely see that happening. I'm really interested in seeing what's actually going to happen there. The only character that has nothing to do this season is Sembene, but I'm really not surprised. He had nothing to do last season either. Whatever. I don't really care that Sembene has nothing to do. A lot of people are like, oh my god, Sembene has nothing to do, but I think it's okay that he has nothing to do. I don't really care that he has nothing to do. Definitely, I feel... Now, also, some people are wondering who this detective is, the detective investigating the thing that Ethan committed. Now, some people are hinting that that detective may be Sherlock Holmes. Now, what do I think about that? I can't confirm nor deny that that is Sherlock Holmes, but if it is, I think that's really interesting, if they do bring Sherlock Holmes to the show. But I'm going to say right now, I don't really think that is Sherlock Holmes. Also, did John base his name off that poet, or are they just going to turn John into that poet? Because I could definitely see it happening. I mean, John was in theater, and now he's, has a new job. Maybe he'll go into poetry. I could definitely see, if I see any job for John, it's him going into poetry. I definitely think that's what his journey this season is going to be, is him going into poetry, and I hope that does happen, because I'd love to see it happen. I think it'd be a really good arc for John, and I hope that does happen, because I think it'd be really good for his character, and I really hope that does happen. But overall, guys, in my review, hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys saw this episode. Overall, guys, I'm absolutely loving this season. One amazing episode, such creepy stuff, and I absolutely loved it. And I will see you guys in the next video, which will be for the season finale of the originals. By the way, guys, if you're wondering what I'm doing with Girl Meets World this week, as you guys know, Girl Meets World is an episode on every single day this week. I'm just gonna binge it Friday. That's what I'm gonna do. Friday, I'm gonna take Friday. I'm just gonna binge the entire season. That's probably what I'm gonna do. I mean, the first five episodes. And I'll just review them to you then. That's probably what I'll do there. Because tomorrow I want to watch Mad Max, because I want to start the Mad Max movies, because I'm planning on seeing Mad Max Fury Road Thursday. Hopefully I can see it Thursday. We'll see what happens there. But that's my review. Hope you guys enjoy it. I'll see you guys in my next video, which will be my review for the season finale of the original, which I cannot wait for, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.